Hey, welcome to this great edition of Beyond Sight. Your host, Hasan Clay. And of course, we're always talking about something about dealing with high conflict personalities. And I want to say thank you for everyone who's been tapping into our podcast on YouTube. I really appreciate you. We're going to keep this thing going, keep this thing moving forward. And I got a question for you. So let's buck up. Let's get ready to get it. Thought, what if the conflict keeps showing up because the pattern keeps showing up? What if the conflict keeps showing up because the pattern keeps showing up? When we start thinking about dealing with high conflict personalities, a lot of times we always think, something wrong with people, right? You encounter three or four or five different people, right? And it seems like the same behavior shows up. If you're in the workforce, and you're dealing with certain type of people, or you're in a relationship, or you have been in multiple relationships and you keep running into the same behavior or the same type of person, maybe the person has some abusive qualities, abusive tendencies, or friendships, things that you've been taken advantage of, things of the nature there. I want you to think about yourself in this, and I want you to look at yourself. It's not that something's wrong with the people, and it is, but I want you to recognize that you are a magnet for the patterns that keep showing up. And what does that look like? Someone always get into a confrontation with someone, or they get engaged to someone or dealing with somebody, and they're very argumentative. They're always talking. They're always talking at them, or always talking harshly to them, or they're doing something nature there. And I want you to look at how many times have you been in a relationship that this is where it winds up taking place? Right? I know I've been in, unfortunately, I've been in relationships that it seemed like I was almost like a archetype that kind of keeps showing up, right? It's the same type of person that keeps showing up, right? At some point, they might have this one thing that they're doing that gets men, right? And heck, I might be the same way with somebody, right? I'm not going to sit there and just blame it all on somebody else. I've even been in the same situations where those patterns start showing up when might be talking harshly at someone, might be a little aggressive. I know for myself, I try to be a nice guy, right? But I know I can kind of be a little egghead sometimes with it, right? I can get a little silly with it at times. And so, what if I'm just a magnet for this type of person, right? I know I'm just a little thing about myself. I've always had this thing of dealing with women that kind of been a little bit more high maintenance than anything else, right? That's kind of been my go-to. But with that comes something else, right? And so I had to really check out myself, and I'm used to a type of pattern of a person, and not saying that all women are beautiful women, or women who are beautiful have these type of everyone's not like that, but I tend to find them a few times, right? And so, so I had to kind of look at myself, man, Clay, what are you doing? What's really happening with you, right? And so, because there's a pattern that I was looking for, that I always set myself up for. And but what about many of us out here who are engaged in relationships, or on having some type of engagement, or at the job, and the people we gravitate towards, or who gravitate towards us, right? What is really happening with us What does it look like? I've got this big sign on my forehead to say, pick me, right? Pick me. What's happening in that? A lot of us don't want to have that discussion, but we really need to sit down. If we're going to make some changes in life, we really need to sit down and look at ourselves and examine what might be taking place, right? And this is not to kind of pick on somebody or for you to even start having some type of negative self-talk. This I'm just this person, or I'm just this bad person, because that happens too with people. And I want you to know that's still a pattern that's showing up. All right. So we need to watch our patterns. So first, let's kind of dive into these. So I got three things. I'm always coming in threes. All right. So I got these three things I want us to look at. First, what is it that you are tolerating? What I mean by that is we a lot of us show up in a situation and we're silent about it, we duck our head, we turn the other way, we look the other way, or we're doing various different things that allows a particular thing to fester or continue to move or continue to keep going forward. It's like, how can you then get mad at a person for being who they are when you keep turning your head to the situation until it gets totally out of whack, and you are then trying to fight for your own survival, your own sanity, because you feel like you're getting victimized, you're getting bullied, or you're getting whatever it is that you might be going through. But you set that up from the beginning because you were tolerating something. And when I say tolerate, I'm not sitting there saying, because many of us get, well, I want this because I've been through a bad relationship before. I mean, with people, well, I'm not going to do this. I don't want this. Well, a man got to be like this if he come to me, or a woman got to be like this if we're going to be together. And they have all these extravagant, ostentatious standards, right? They have these enormous, gigantic standards that they really can't live up to because they haven't really did the internal work to really put themselves in that. They ear hustling from a lot of their friends. Girl, I wouldn't do this. Bro, I ain't gonna do all, man, doing this. And they hear all this, and yeah, man, yeah, yeah, yeah. And next thing you know, they choose somebody who's doing the very same thing to them that the last person did, right? Because they haven't did the internal work to remove the tolerance level of it. I'm not saying have zero tolerance, because you have to be able to work with people, but you have to be in a position of maintaining a standards, saying your standard, voicing your standards, but also having that type of standards on yourself, right? Because a lot of times we have it's a situation where it's rules for thee, but not for me. That takes place. And when we are then have this zero tolerance, that's what's really taking place. I want you to be this particular way, but then I'm not going to show up the same way that I want you to be. Right. So therefore, you're really not working on yourself to then not have to develop the balance or the boundaries that are necessary. Because that's what we're really talking about when we start talking about tolerance. We are talking about boundaries. We're not putting the proper parameters in play. And so you're doing a lot of talking. You're doing a lot of talking. You just bump your lips, but you ain't really living that life. And this what people can really see. And so the person who, let's say a person has some narcissistic tendencies, right? Or they have some borderline personality tendencies, right? They're gonna smell you. They're gonna smell you. They know they can zero in at you. They just waiting on the time to really bam hit in at that particular thing, and bam, there you go. And once they throw that line out, they start reeling it, start reeling it, start reeling it. Wow! They catch you, and, now you like a fish dancing in the water. You're trying to dance, you're trying to come off the hook, but at that point they got you. And then you want to know why you got snared up. Now you in the net. Now you finna be dinner. you know, now you served up. You're on the table because you didn't have the understanding of self, of what it is that you weren't going to tolerate, and you didn't put those actions within your own life. You didn't recognize your own patterns, let alone somebody else's. And so you couldn't smell it out. We're going to kind of talk a little bit more about that on the third one. But you couldn't smell it, you couldn't see it, couldn't feel it, you couldn't taste it, right? You had your sensories wasn't taking place. You start thinking with other parts of your body versus the right part of your body. Your mind and your soul didn't connect. And so therefore your awareness was down. And so if we start then looking at that, we can do something different. But here's the next thing, and this is what's happened with the second one. You, at some point, think that you can help change the person, right? How many of us had that savior mindset, that savior mentality, the Captain Saver mentality, right? And that's man or woman. How many women have just said, "Oh, girl, only thing he just needs a good woman behind him," and this and this and this and that. That joker crazy. You know what I mean? But you thinking you can do something because he has some gifting, some gift of gab. He told you something, then he kind of gave you the sob story, the sad story about what his last woman did or whatever. And now she all type of names, calling all type of names, on all this type of stuff here. And I ain't gonna sit there and say that she probably didn't have a lot of these bad qualities that's taking place. But what was it that he was doing that attracted that particular thing, right? And or where was he not showing up well in the situation, right? And so you now think that you can change him or you can change her, you know, and make them a better person, give them the vision, give them some insight in life and all this other type of stuff here, when that person really had no thoughts about doing anything different, and they want you to be on their time, right? And so quit thinking you can change somebody. Now, if it's a person looking again, if they're doing the internal work, they're trying to make some strides and doing something different within their life, by all means, you know. And if you like them, the pros are better than the cons in that situation, because nobody comes in 100% good. Nobody. We all walk this earth imperfect. We're perfectly imperfect, right? We all walk this life on that type of time. But I don't have to. My imperfect don't have to catch up with your imperfect. That's just going to be real about it. My imperfect don't have to catch up with yours. Yours don't have to catch up with mine. And we have to be able to make sure and have some type of discernment of when that may or may not take place. That's one of the reasons why we should be kind of slow to just jumping into to relationships. And this is from a relationship point of view at this point, even before I even go into maybe a workforce point of view. But a lot of you get romantically inclined too soon, right? You start letting your heart get in it. You start, oh, I'm in love with her. I'm in love with him, and this and that. And you don't even know him, and you didn't take the time to know him. You didn't take the time to know her, right? And what happens? You start leading with your emotions a little bit more, and that's a surefire way to get caught up in the first place. And we talked about a little of that in our last podcast, just from an emotional standpoint of view. When your emotions are there, your judgment is going to be clouded. Surefire way for your judgment to be clouded, having these high emotions. And a lot of times we get caught in this understanding of romanticism, is that there's this overall thought of emotions that really come into play. And so then we're not really tapping into the rationale or the logic of a situation. This is cool, but really, this chick really ain't the one for me, or this man really isn't the one for me. Now, I like him, and for the most part, there's some great qualities, but the pros do not outweigh the cons. And you have to be able to tell yourself that, even in dealing with people who are on a workforce. You got a person who you may really need to start managing out, and you have to take that hard approach to figuring out how to manage them out, get them transferred off your shift, or get them removed from the company altogether. You have to really figure that out, because that person is very, and I don't really care for this word, but I use it here. The person is very toxic. It tears up the culture of the keep friction and mess going on the job, and keep everybody in shambles, and keep everything kind of. So it's like when they come to work, oh my God, this person here, because it's always something. Yeah, they may do great work, but the chaos that they bring doesn't doesn't match with the output that they're putting out. The chaos that's coming on, if you are losing people, if you have your retention on the job is very low, because people are quitting and people want to leave this job and everything else because this person is here, then that means you're actually losing money. Because here, what you have to do, you have to retrain somebody else new coming in. You got to go through the interview process, which takes up more time, which time is money, right? Then you got to get these people acclimated to being here. Then once they get in, then they don't want to be there. They're ready to go, and they're ready to get out of there. Then you got to go through that whole process all over again, because this person is here. This person may have a skill that's needed, but you can train somebody else in their spot and then keep the culture going. That one person is worth more. It's not worth more than five other people. It really isn't. And so what happens, we get a little scared, because sometimes that person may have some leadership spots, or they supposedly have this thought of being a leader, or they just have this particular skill that can be be used. And what you do is rely on that person's utility for that skill. But the reality of it is, you're actually losing more than you're actually gaining. And you, as a manager, you as the leader, you as a leader on this job, or you as an employer, you're not tapping into that. And you think you can change that person. You think you can talk to them, you can convince them. You go to talk yourself blue in the face, and they listen to you, may give you all this defensive that they have, these excuses, these lies, they reaction, they do all this type of behavior. They have this deer behavior, and we understand deer is defend, excuse, explain, react. Right? You keep getting that from them, and they never change. They're trying to change you more than you changing them. Why? Because your tolerance level, keeping them, going back to number one, your tolerance level is very high for their nonsense, for their chaos, for their high conflict traits. And they're messing up your workforce. They're messing up your work environment. So then what do you do? Right? What is it that you do? One, you need to, like I said, you need to learn how to get ready to manage them out strategically within the rule book, not getting them within the. I always just tell people about when I was a union rep, and I do a lot of grievance work, right? A little grievance and arbitration work. I used to always tell our union members, look, two things that you got to live by on a job site. That's the rule book and your union book. They're gonna fire you based upon their rule book. You're gonna keep your job based upon the union book, right? So you need to know your book. So as a manager, you need to make sure you understand how to dot your I's and cross your T's, right? Because what happens is you mess around and catch a lawsuit, and because you're doing things wrong, because your emotions caught up, mess around, catch a lawsuit, or then you got to give these people, if you're trying to give them, they got to give them a job back, then you got to give them money back from the time that they're off, and you have to bridge their insurance, and make the insurance whole and keeping everything up. That's a lot of money that they ain't even earned because they was out of work. And you got to pay them that money back because your emotions got caught up, right? So because your high conflict personality traits came out because they brought it out of you, right? So you have to understand how to make sure that you dot I's and cross T's when you're getting ready to walk a person off the job, right? And it ain't personal, it's business, right? And so, thirdly, last but not least, new awareness brings about new outcomes. When you are then looking at your awareness, you're identifying these various things. You're identifying the things within yourself. You're identifying the things with the other person. Then once you start becoming aware of where you are and what's happening with them, then your outcomes are going to change. You're going to deal with them differently. You're going to not accept a lot of the things that that comes with them. You're going to position them to be in places where they can't hurt the team. If you're on a job, you're going to position yourself so the person can't hurt you. If you're in a relationship, you're going to do all these things here because your awareness is different. Now, this is not, again, I want us to be clear. This isn't about ear hustling or somebody telling you. This is really hearing what it is, synthesizing it, assessing it, evaluating where you are in that whole situation. And that takes a lot of self inventory. That takes a lot of digging deep within yourself to figure out, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I need to do. This takes a lot of educating. It takes a lot of mentorship, talking to some people who are a little bit more versed in you. I know in a book it says, "Ask the people who know." That is a very profound statement. Ask the people who know, right? And so when you going to get this type of help, you're seeking. Look, you wouldn't believe the people that I have in my corner to be able to advise me on various different things. I don't have all the answers to anything. I have a few answers here. I'm going to go get some answers for some people who I respect and I think, and I want to make sure that uh, I can follow up those things which they talk about. I was just listening to a TikTok video, I guess you call it. That's what it is, a TikTok video of Charles Barkley, right? And his relationship with Michael Jordan, how they were best friends for the longest. And then for the last 10 years, they haven't spoken to each other, right? And one of the things that Barkley told him was that, he said something on the show is that, Michael Jordan wasn't a good general manager. He wasn't a good GM. He was a good person. And he did not have the right people around him to advise him. He had a bunch of yes men in his corner, right? And when somebody's relying on you, you relying on that person. They flying in his plane. He's feeding them basically because he gave him a job. Everything about them is contingent on him. That kind of muddies the water a little bit, and people are not going to be one to kind of tell you some things. I have some good friends, some good advisors, some people that I respect tremendously, and they will tell me, I don't know, Clay, I don't know, Hasan, that sounds crazy to me, or you saying that wrong, or what? Oh, okay, yeah, man, that's pretty cool there. But think of it also this way here. You see, they give me advice and they bring my awareness to a situation, so then I can start seeing, some things a lot differently, and I can start moving in directions, so I can start seeing things and doing things differently. But when you don't have these type of people in your corner, then you're not going to get the awareness. Believe me when I tell you, it's more to get becoming aware than you just sitting in a chair in a dark room somewhere by yourself and you thinking all day long. Right? It's more to awareness than that. It's about, maybe you picked up a book, maybe it's something that you might have, an article you may have read, or something that you might have seen on TV, and then you say, let me think about that a little bit. And you think about, let me ask some questions about that. And you go ask some questions. You ask some people who you trust, who you rely on, who you might know that have some information about that. You're going to ask them, look, tell me, okay, I just seen this right here. Tell me about that right there. What you know about this right here? Well, X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, and 3. Give me more about that. Right? And then they're giving you the information, they're helping you with the information. Then you go put more, go get more guidance on it about the information. You just don't Google it and think that's it. You go do a lot more in-depth research on the situation, so you then get the awareness. And that, a lot of time people think, look, the awareness, they used to see this cartoon when a light bulb pops up on it, and they're like, oh, I got an idea. Like, yeah, sometimes it does come like that, but sometimes it doesn't come like that. Majority of the time, it doesn't come like that. It's not just spare the moment with instantaneous or instinctive and all this old type of stuff. I'm not saying that doesn't come into play. I'm saying we rely on it too much and call that awareness. And that's the problem. We rely on it too much and call that awareness. Right? So now, if I then want to make sure that my tolerance level is better, because I just showed you rather how to get to better tolerance, how to make sure that you are following through, that you're not really trying to convince somebody or trying to change somebody's perspective and all this, because you can't change them. The only thing you can do is give information, and they can act on the information accordingly, or they can get managed out. Right? Either you're going to do these, you're going to be able to do these two things right here by doing the third thing, getting proper awareness, getting better awareness, so you can have different outcomes. Because at the end of the day, this is what we're talking about: how to get better outcomes, how to, and hey, the title of the book, right? Taming the Storm: Understanding and Overcoming High Conflict Personalities for a Peaceful Life. We're trying to get some understanding so we can have different outcomes. That's what we're trying to do. And this is why, like I say, this is why this is so important. And of course, my book's still on my website. It's for sale. If you go to my website, you go to Amazon, you can pick the book up there. Understanding and Overcoming High Conflict Personalities for a Peaceful Life. That's Taming the Storm. And get this information. You wouldn't, oh my God, some clients I have who I know I've sold the book to, and we have sessions, and they're going through various different things. And I'm like, wow, that was in chapter 3. If we were in chapter 4, you would see that. Right. And it's just, I asked, did you read the book? Yeah, I got through that. So a lot of them can't some of them can't even get past the pre-assessment, because they see themselves and then they want to put it down because they can't deal with the change that it's going to take for them. They see themselves and then they shut it down. Right. But then they want to know why I keep going through these same problems over and over and over again, because they are not catching the patterns. And then they're scared to face themselves. But not you. That's people who are looking at this podcast right here. And that's not you. But at some point in time, it was you. Right. So now we're just trying to do something a tad differently to get better outcomes, to make sure that we don't take people through those processes that we've been through that was toxic or chaotic or things that was just not good, not good for human consumption. Is who wants to take all that foolishness in? It's like somebody going to McDonald's, and I can say this because it's happened to me. It's like somebody going to McDonald's 7 days a week, 2-3 times a day, and eating and don't think they ain't gonna come up with diabetes. I ain't even thought about that. And that's something that actually happened to me. I came with diabetes. I was in undergrad. I was working, I was going to school. And I share this with you because I want you to see the connection. I was going to school. I stopped at McDonald's twice a day. I eat, then go to school, get off of work, grab me something to eat, go to school. Then while I'm at school, go grab me something to eat at McDonald's and eat. I used to get it. That's when they used to supersize all that stuff too. So I was doubling it up to diabetes, right? And within a year's time, went from not diabetic to being diabetic within 1 year's time. That's how quick things can happen for you. Now, I'm just talking about a dietary habit. What if you're feeding your mind this stuff constantly? You're not picking up the patterns. Or you thinking you can change somebody and you haven't even changed yourself, right? You won't change, but you won't change, right? And so then next thing you know, you have the relationship 1, relationship 2, relationship 5, relationship 6, and you still got the same problem. You on this job, you got fired from that job to this job, you got fired from this job to that job, you're picking up jobs, and there's a problem. You always talk about somebody else is the problem, but you fail to look at yourself. But you always think somebody else is the problem. But you're pointing your finger, but you fail to look at the 3 that's pointing back at you. So, with that being said, right, is it the people who are the problem, or is you who fail to recognize the pattern that's the problem? I want you to think about that, right? So, I'm gonna end this podcast with that. I'm gonna land this plane with that, on that note right there. I want everybody to remember that, of course, please connect with me on all social media platforms. That's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Well, Facebook is under just my name. Facebook and LinkedIn is just my name, Hasan Clay. But you can look at and catch me on TikTok, Instagram, and other platforms, and YouTube under the Hasan Clay Experience. By all means, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's kind of continue to push this stuff out here and share this information. I know you can use it, but I know you know someone else who also can use it, right? I know you know someone who's probably caught up in certain things. They're getting trapped, and they run through all type of rabbit holes. They get pulled into all type of rabbit holes and all type of stuff here, who can actually use this information, right? So please share with them and comment. Share with us some of the things that you may have even encountered in doing this and living in this stage of not recognizing the patterns. And every Monday at 7 p.m., this is when we shoot this thing out. So always set your notifications for Monday at 7 p.m. so you can be aware of when the podcast is being aired and when it's showing up. By all means, thank you for the love that y'all give, for checking me out. You can be anywhere in the world at 7 p.m. on Monday, on this time here on Monday. But you choose to share that with me. And I really do appreciate you. With that, we're going to see you guys next week. See everyone next week. Brothers, by all means, continue to support what we got going on. Sisters, continue to support me and what we got going on, and helping your man or helping yourself be better. Right? Because if we don't do it, I guarantee you we'll be in the same position next year that we're in today. We got to do something different, y'all. I love you. Y'all have a great week and have a positive weekend. Be safe, and I'm seeing you guys on your back next week. All right, take care.